The Lembert pattern is an inverting pattern where the bites are placed perpendicular to the incision line, unlike the Cushing pattern where the bites are placed parallel. Similar to the Cushing pattern, the bites do not enter the lumen of the hollow organ. Unlike the Cushing pattern, the suture itself remains exterior to the incision after the final closure. The first bite of the Lembert pattern is placed with the needle going from close to far away from the incision, very similar to how an intradermal pattern is started. And the second bite is placed far to close, but the needle does not exit out of the incision. It exits before coming to the incision so that every bite causes the incision to invert. Again, you can see the similarities to how this pattern starts compared to the intradermal pattern. The suture is pulled parallel to the incision to bury the knot. And 4 throws are placed. In this model, we are using 4-0 PDS to close this incision. And in the model, the tissue is quite thin, so full thickness bites are being used, which is different than what would be done in live tissue. And so each subsequent bite is placed perpendicular to the incision, where away from you, the bite is placed far to close, and towards you it's placed close to far. And so you can see that the tissue is inverting, but there's always suture on the outside of this incision as compared to the Cushing pattern where the suture is pretty much buried other than the final knot. Similar to any other inverting pattern on a hollow organ, it's very critical that tissue handling is very gentle. You can also appreciate that the Lembert pattern takes a little longer to place than a Cushing pattern because the bites have to be closer together. Similar to the Cushing pattern, the size of the bites and the spacing depends on the type of tissue that you're closing, how thick it is, mostly, and how big it is. So to bury the knot for a Lembert pattern, it's very similar to an intradermal pattern where you leave the close bites on the final loop exposed, and then take a far to near bite or far to close bite. And so you have all of your loops that are close to the incision to allow that knot to bury.